All right, well, Jack Hunt is a great LSU Tiger, a safety on the 2003 National Championship team. He's just a great American, and it's awesome to have you here today, Jack. Thanks for coming down.
Absolutely. Thanks for inviting me. Glad to be here. It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. Jack from Ruston, Louisiana, and I'm not saying this just because you're sitting here right now. I think that if you're a young person and you want to look to somebody to kind of model yourself after and kind of strive to do great things, not only as an athlete, but in the professional world, this guy right here is somebody you should look at. Like I said, won a national championship, played several years in the NFL, and these days has been a part of disaster relief. You've been part of some of the biggest events in Louisiana history: Hurricane Katrina, the BP oil spill, the floods of 2016. You've been part of those relief efforts too.
Yeah, we have. Our part of the business does the disaster recovery work after floods, hurricanes, or even man-made events. So yeah, we participate in a lot of those events, helping local governments, state governments recover from disasters. It's been a fun ride and kind of been all over the place doing it, from here to New York to Puerto Rico and Florida and Texas, everywhere in between.
Jack looks the same too, by the way. I mean, I could have stepped into a time warp and been right back in the year 2000, and he looks the same here today. And you've got a wife and 4 daughters, and so you won't be coaching any football, I guess.
No coaching football. I don't know that I have the temperament to coach young athletes very well either, but they're little athletes. They play basketball, soccer, all that good stuff. They keep us busy, and glad to have them.
Let's go back in time. So you come to LSU in the year 2000. And you started as a wide receiver. As a matter of fact, looking at your bio, in the Alabama game in 2000, I read there was a crucial 3rd and 5.
Right.
That you caught a 12-yard pass from Rohan Davis, or was it Josh Booty, I guess?
Booty,
Josh
yeah.
Booty at the time, for a first down that led to a big touchdown. So in those first couple of years, you were playing wide receiver.
Yes, I did. And, I came in, Coach Saban had me. We played a little bit both ways. I did that with several players to try to figure out where the fit was, and ended up playing receiver those first 2 years. And, that was my, claim to fame my freshman year, that caught the 3rd down pass that I think we ended up scoring a touchdown and win that game, beat Alabama for the first time at home since 72 or something like that.
I think it was 69,
69,
right?
Yeah, I mean, it was over 30 years, so yeah.
I think one of those students had a sign, "Party like it's 1969," because that was the last time. There was a weird thing going on where LSU would beat Alabama on the road and lose to them at home. So there was that game. And then you start, eventually they move you over to defensive back. And look, I've got you sitting here right now as we move into the year 2002, okay? So there was a radio call during the Bluegrass Miracle. Yes. One of the most famous plays in LSU history, and I've learned as a media guy, okay? Certainly do not criticize other media. I don't think that media who get on social media and try to police other media, I've learned that, that's maybe not the right thing to do. But you're sitting here right now, and if I don't ask this question, I'll be accused of not doing my job. So you were identified as catching the Bluegrass Miracle for a moment there on the radio.
Correct, I was. It's I guess what I'm most well known for that didn't even happen to me. So it was. It's still a joke today with a lot of former teammates, and I mean, still, if I meet somebody new that's an LSU fan, I mean, that's the first thing they say is Jack Hunt, Jack Hunt. I mean, it's still alive and well today, whatever that is, almost 20 years later.
Yeah, 2002. So we're about to go into 2022. That'll be 20 years ago that happened. Unbelievable. So yeah, you said you go to a tailgate or something, and.
Oh yeah, you run into people. I mean, that's the first thing out of their mouth is, "Oh my gosh, Jack Hunt, do you remember that?" I was like, how could I not remember that? For sure I do.
That game, it seems like, interviewing you over the years, I interviewed Will Muschamp last summer on a Zoom.
Okay.
And I asked him about that game, and he didn't even see it. He was so upset about the way the defense had played that he was just marching off the field and then kind of looked over his shoulder, we scored and won the game.
Right.
It seems like, talking to multiple people, that game was kind of hot garbage, and at the end of it is attached one of the biggest plays in college football history.
No doubt. Well, I mean, I think that game, if my memory's correct, I mean, we beat them pretty handily in the first half, and they just had this play. They'd line up in 3 wides on one side and 1 wide on the other, and it's like the guy knew our defense. If he went on top of this guy and then wiggled around under him and went up the field. It's like he knew our reads, and we all came off of him, and he would end up running down the field. And it was just one of those plays. They beat us like 3 times on that for a touchdown in the second half to come back and go ahead. And yes, we were all frustrated, hanging our heads. I don't even think I saw it either. I mean, we're all walking off the field disgusted and end up winning the game.
Yeah, and Nick Saban walking off the field, they ambush him. The sideline reporter, I don't know how he's trying to digest what exactly happened.
Right.
I don't know what to say. I feel bad for Kentucky's players, I think is what he said.
I believe it.
And it was just the wrong score gets flashed up as Devery Henderson is running in the end zone with the ball. Kentucky 30, LSU 27. I think they throw that up. Oh, nope.
Yeah.
Bring that down. The Kentucky fans storm the field.
Oh, yeah, they rushed the field. I mean, there's pictures, with the fans almost on the field, and Devery's not even in the end zone yet. I mean, it was wild, for sure.
The famous, I guess you would just judging him by looking at him, frat kid who ran out, had to get a tie on.
Yeah.
He's jumping up, and then he realizes what just happened.
Yes, I think everybody remembers that guy, unfortunately.
That guy's probably 40 years old now or something like that, and then they tear down the goalposts on the opposite side.
Yeah, I forgot about that. They did. Well, I can tell you, it didn't feel like a W in the locker room afterwards. It was not a good speech by the head coach. It was kind of a butt chewing. Let's get out of here and be glad we got a win, and nothing good to say about it.
Yeah, and sorry to bring up a bad memory, but the next week against Alabama, you guys got beat 31-0.
Oh yeah, that was
at home.
Yeah, that was a tough game too. Thanks for bringing that one up.
I think the highlight of the game was a fake punt, and Brady James ran for a first down. Right?
That's right. That was a highlight of that game. Brady was fired up about that.
He was. So I think Nick Saban even referenced it the other day, a couple years ago with the Alabama Crimson Tide. He's like, well, it's the Bluegrass miracle effect. Everyone gets excited, and we didn't play well, and then, bad things happen. And I want to talk to you about Nick Saban some more in a moment. But,
sure.
He was smart enough, obviously, to identify Jack Hunt, move him to safety. Devery Henderson, move him from running back to wide receiver. Corey Webster, move him from wide receiver to defensive back as well. And so your last 2 years there, I know, and not to bring up another bad memory, but the Texas Bowl, the Cotton Bowl,
yep.
Roy Williams was a stud.
He was a stud.
That was a baptism by fire, wasn't it?
It was. That was a tough one. Roy Williams was, 6'5", 230, so yeah, that was pretty tough.
He was a freak of nature.
He was tough to cover for sure. And we had great corners too, and it was just hard to get your hands on that guy and get him on the ground when he did catch the ball too.
Nick Saban in that post-game press conference cried. It was the one time I saw he got emotional about the senior class he was letting go. Toughest group of guys to let go, he said.
Yeah.
In Dallas that day.
Yeah, no, that was I guess Brady James in that class, Norman Lejeune, and some of those guys. I guess that was kind of his first class that he got to beat up on and got close enough to.
I was going to joke with Jack here. Jack's already earned time in heaven. He was a defensive back for Nick Saban.
That's right, yeah. Well, Will Muschamp was pretty fiery too, so they were great coaches. I got along with them well. You knew where the line was and what they expected, and as long as you delivered that, you were going to be okay.
Yeah, I was thinking about all those coaches had a bit of, always kind of nag Jimbo Fisher, same way.
No doubt, yes. Yeah. Who was the O-line coach? We had Rick Trickett there for a while. I mean, we had a handful of them. They were pretty intense, no doubt.
Yeah. I'm sure at some point you thought to yourself, who was on the staff back then? And all those guys who went on to become head coaches in the SEC, even a Derek Dooley, it didn't work out for him at Tennessee, but, he got a big opportunity there. And
staff, I mean, if you look back, too, at the administration, you had Mark Emmert was the provost or whatever, so, I mean, obviously, he's head of NCAA. Dan Radakovich was assistant DA, and he was at Clemson for a while. Scott Woodard was associate AD. So, I mean, we had some not even football coaching and talent on the team. I mean, we had some really good talent throughout the organization at LSU at the time, looking back. Really,
but it all starts at the top,
yeah,
right?
Star-studded class from the top all the way down. Really unbelievable if you look back at it.
I used to love to hear Skip Bertman say, Dan Radakovich. He'd break it up into a couple of extra syllables there. But, Dan going on to Clemson.
Yeah.
Very successful athletic director at Clemson.
Right, yeah. And same thing with Scott to Washington to A&M. And thank goodness we got him back here at LSU. And, really pretty amazing.
So 2003, when you guys are starting spring football and everything, Are you sensing anything? Do you have a feeling that the year could be special, or is it I'm going to practice every day and let's just do our best?
You know, I'd be curious what other teammates say. I mean, I didn't really think we were great or really, really good till probably after the third or fourth game. When we went on the road to Arizona, and that was supposed to be a pretty big matchup, and we drummed them. We come home and played probably our first SEC game and drummed them. I think that's kind of when everybody was like, hey, we're not just good, we have a chance to be really good.
The Arizona game, I think it was a 9 o'clock kickoff, Baton Rouge time, very late. And once again, what I remember about that game, I remember you guys it was men against boys. I mean, you just skull drug them in front of their home crowd.
Right.
And Skylar Green ran back a punt for a touchdown later in the game. His momentum took him into the end zone and by the fans, and there was like 5 fans who had their hands reached down like LSU fans, and Skylar just put his hand up and high-fived them.
Oh, cool.
The ref gave him a penalty for that.
Really? Okay.
For excessive celebration.
I don't remember that.
And Nick Saban being Nick Saban, we got cutaways of him and Coach Saban in the fourth quarter.
Oh, yeah.
When you guys are up 59-13, I think that was the final, something like that.
Yeah.
And he's irate. He is screaming at Coach Muschamp.
Yeah.
And after the game, one of the first things he brings up is, well, we don't want our players jumping up in the stands and getting us penalties.
Yeah.
I'm like, Coach, he didn't do the Lambeau leap. He just kind of high-fived. But anyway, but that just summed him up, right?
Oh, it did. He can't turn it off. He's always on. It's always business and always doing your job. So it's worked to his favor and had a lot of success, no doubt about it.
And he had a lot of admiration for you, obviously. He took you to Miami, to the Dolphins, too.
Yeah, he did. Once he got, I'd finished the year before, and I'd gone to a couple mini camps, didn't get picked up in the NFL after my first year, and then when Coach got the job in Miami, I actually just called him on his cell phone and said, hey, I'm still interested in playing if you got a spot. And they said, yeah, why don't you come in, need you to work out, see what the guys think, and we'll probably send you to NFL Europe, get back in shape, you haven't played in a year, and then come back and we'll see what works out. So it did work out. I did go to NFL Europe. It was a fun little 6-month deal. Came back. It was kind of tough because you play 6 months over there. You come back and you go straight to minicamp, OTAs, then minicamp.
Yeah.
So it's about a year and a half of football straight. So that was tough, but it was great experience in the NFL. Mostly on the practice squad. Got to be on the roster for several games my second year. Got to play some special teams in a few games, and at least got to experience it.
Kind of like what the FCS guys are going through right now, like the Nichols and McNeese and Southeastern. They played a spring schedule.
Right, yeah.
And now they're going to play a fall schedule.
Yeah.
Some people say, oh, well, they're 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. They can handle it. But that is a lot on your body in a short period of time.
No doubt it is. It was tough. I know we had a couple of guys that had done NFL Europe the year before, and they were on like a 2-year run. And I remember 2 or 3 guys like just walked out of camp in Miami. And 2 of them just took a year off, and they came back. Actually, the next year, the Miami signed them back, and they were just burnt out. I mean, it's a lot to do that for a year round. I mean, it's tough.
That's going to have to be an ESPN 30 for 30 one day, NFL Europe, right?
Oh, yeah, no. It was super fun. It was really interesting. I mean, it's like being in college because you live in a hotel with all your teammates. So, I mean, y'all hang around together. You do practical jokes, the garbage bag or the garbage can on the door full of water. We had a big column in our downstairs lobby. So, if the offensive lineman called a DB, they would duct tape you to the column downstairs. So, it was a lot of fun, a lot of practical jokes. Everybody had a good time while everybody's kind of sweating it out and trying to make a roster, too.
Did Amsterdam have a team?
Mm-hmm, they did.
Okay, that could be an interesting road trip. Get yourself in some trouble if you're not careful.
A lot of the Amsterdam team, if there's 50 players on that team, I think they went through about 100 because they had to send people home for various issues.
Testing.
Yes. It was, yeah.
So you tell me you couldn't play for Amsterdam, smoke as much as you want, and get out there.
Correct. I was in Berlin, and that was good enough for me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I've never been. When I hear the culture, they just push it on you. It's in cookies. It's in
it's
all
everything.
over the place.
Oh yeah, it was all over the place. They've also got those red lights somewhere around there too. Other things. So it was. We got to go play a game there and got to see it for a night or two, but that was about it.
That's it. All right. Well, so 2003 back to 2003, the LSU Georgia game in Tiger Stadium that year has been described by many people as the loudest day game in LSU history. And once again, a sign of the times. The final score was 17-10 LSU. What do you remember about that day?
So that's the game I remember seeing. Then when we beat Georgia, that's when I thought we were pretty good. What I remember about that day is Georgia had the ball either inside our red zone or the 30 and in, really close to the red zone, I think 3 or 4 times, and came away with 10 points.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's when I think defensively realized, wow, we're really good. We stuffed them out. They missed a field goal or 2. We had a turnover. But it was a battle. It was a rough game because it felt like we were always behind because they had such good field position that game.
David Pollock of ESPN and SEC Network fame, he was on that Georgia team. I think he's talked about that many times, how loud it was that day. DJ Shockley was the backup quarterback.
Correct, yeah.
They brought him in for like a series or 2.
Yeah, they had the lefty quarterback, Green.
Yeah.
David Green, maybe?
Yeah, David.
Yeah, I think we knocked him out. And we got a lot of pressure that game and created some turnovers. Like I said, stuffed them on third downs. And I remember when Shockley came in, it was just for a couple of plays. I mean, we blitzed full out every play, like go get after him, don't give him a chance to get comfortable.
That's what I was going to say. He was so shell-shocked. They put him in the game, and they were back at their own 5 or something like that, and the noise was just deafening, and he must have been, and a lot of NFL talent on that defense that you were playing with.
A ton of talent, if you look back on that. I mean, probably, of the starting, 12 or 13 if you count those nickel and dime packages. I think every person played in the NFL for at least a year or 2, but half of them were top 4 round picks and probably 3 or 4 first round picks. So we were loaded, had a lot of talent.
And real quick, I'll say, going back and looking at some of that video, there's a shot of Marcus Spears after the game hugging Marquise Hill, and no one's forgotten Marquise Hill, but I think sometimes when we have these conversations, I like to bring him up every now and then just to realize, what a tragic situation, a life and a career that was really cut way too short there.
No, I agree. It was a tragic situation. Caught all of us a little in shock for sure. But yeah, definitely not forgotten. He was a key part of that team too, and great player.
Great player. Got drafted by the Patriots, right, in the second
right.
round, I believe. So yeah, Georgia game, 17-10. You go to Mississippi State and wallop them 41-6. Now, this goes to show the importance of Jack Hunt to the 2003 LSU Tigers. The one game you did not play in that year, you had a knee injury, right?
Yeah, I sprained my MCL towards the end of the Mississippi State game.
So the Florida game with a freshman quarterback and Chris Leak, I think they went down the seam at least twice for touchdowns that day. Yep. I remember going to practice that week, shooting video of practice, and us being the nosy TV guys we're getting shots. I think Chiron Carey had a knee injury.
Yep, Chiron was out too.
And you were wearing a knee brace at practice, and you were doing some stuff, and you tried to cut, and you kind of stumbled, and it was obvious that you weren't going to be able to play. And the second that happened, Saban screamed at us, "I better not see that bleep on TV tonight."
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, you didn't play in that game, and that was the one game you lost that year.
It was, and they caught us, in some blitzes that kind of got us out of position. Saw kind of where the running back slipped to, and he just kind of slipped through a couple times. And I mean, that was the difference in the game, was those couple of plays. Probably just some miscommunication in the back end.
Yeah.
But offensively we didn't play very well. Wasn't a very good game. Kind of a sloppy game all around, unfortunately.
I remember too, Jack, on Monday, there was a media guy who was doing a feature on a certain player on the defense, and that certain player did not have a good game in that Florida game. And Saban can we talk about somebody else this week? I mean, can we put this off to next week or something like that? I guess the media guy didn't really, I don't know, it didn't add up that person didn't have a good game in the last game. Maybe we should shelf this and punt it.
Right.
So
I can say that.
So anyway, all right, so South Carolina, that was the emergence of the freshmen, the young running backs.
It
right?
was. That was Allie Broussard and, golly. Justin Vincent, yeah. That was crazy. I mean, we're down to our 4th and 5th string running backs, and my dad has a saying, you never know how good the backup is till the starter gets hurt, because the coach is never going to play the backup. But sometimes the backups are better than the starters. They just got to get a chance to shine on the field. Yeah,
that was a big night for those young running backs in Columbia, South Carolina. The Auburn game in Tiger Stadium was a madhouse that night. They had Cadillac Williams and
Ronnie Brown.
Yeah, Cadillac Williams and Ronnie Brown.
Yep.
Your defense, I think on the opening drive, Auburn decided to go for it on 4th and 1. And there was this guy named Chad Lavallee who was standing there.
Yeah, he had a big night that night. Defensively, I think we stuffed them. They probably didn't have 100 yards rushing. That was a fun game. I remember that one.
Louisiana Tech, no mercy on your hometown there, 49-10. You guys beat them for homecoming.
That was great because Kyle Williams, fellow Ruston boy, had an interception that game, and then I had an interception return for a touchdown. So it was kind of nice that the Ruston guys on defense got to give it back to the hometown a little bit.
So big Kyle Williams had a pick?
Yeah. It was like a slip screen or something, and he was right there to catch it. So, yeah.
Well, you brought him up. Let's mention him. I mean, LSU has had some great defensive linemen over the years, but if we take a look at it, as far as an NFL career and the productivity, Kyle Williams may stand on the top.
He's definitely got to be in the top 3, and if he's not the top. I mean, he had an excellent career at LSU. He had a phenomenal NFL career, played 13, 14 years on the D-line. All-Pro a couple of years. I mean, really outstanding career, was outstanding in the community. He was known in Buffalo as kind of the king of the town. So, I mean, obviously a great career for him. Really proud of him. He did a great job. And, now he's back at Ruston High. He's their defensive coordinator for the Ruston High Bearcats. And so he's giving back to the community there. I think it's great that he's there, and some other guys that played in the NFL, or Kenny Wright played at Northwestern. He played in the NFL for a few years. He's a cornerbacks coach. I think it's a really neat deal for those Ruston High School kids playing football with 2 guys that played in the NFL. One of them was an All-Pro. Really good influence on the kids back in Ruston, Louisiana.
Yeah, they should pay attention.
Exactly. They're very fortunate. I mean, that's pretty unique to have that opportunity.
Yeah, it's kind of like the running backs who are working with Kevin Falk these days. It's
exactly.
This guy knows what he's talking about, right?
Right.
And, Kyle just seemed like the example of a guy who would never complain about anything, just relentlessly tough, don't whine, take your lunchbox to work and just get to work.
That's no doubt. Grind it out and get your job done.
And a scratch golfer, too, I understand.
Oh, yeah, he's an unbelievable golfer.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you would think big guy, he can bomb it, which he can, but his touch around the greens and putting, and so he's having a lot of fun doing that now, too. He does that, I think, in off-season, plays in some little mini-tour stuff and some Pro-Am things. He's a great golfer.
Awesome. So you go to Alabama too. You beat them 27-3. Dominate them in Tuscaloosa. It just wasn't the same as it is now. They were not the program that they are now.
We called them in those years when they were not too hot. So
I think Nick Saban only lost once to Bama at LSU, if I'm not mistaken. That was a 2002 game we talked about. So the Ole Miss game. So this past weekend, Peyton Manning, the biggest no-doubter, first ballot Hall of Famer ever. He goes in. You see Eli, his brother, out there in the crowd and doing stuff. Eli Manning, the biggest game of his career, I would say, and I'm not totally well-versed on Ole Miss football, but I would have to say the biggest home game they've played in decades.
No doubt. I'd agree with that.
That
was a fun game. It was really interesting. That's the only game I remember where we actually would call 2 defensive plays in the huddle. And so the first play is what we're going to run, and if he checks out of what play he's in on offense, then we're going to check to another defense. And I know of at least one time, I'm thinking twice, where Eli gets to the line, he looks around, he checks, we check, change, he looks around, checks, we check back into what we were in, and he calls timeout. So, I mean, it was really one of the few chess matches we had in college football of a guy that was going to get their offense in the best play based on what defense we were in, and we were going to move around. If he was going to move around, we were going to move around too. It was really a fun game.
Wow. Yeah. And sometimes people goof on Eli when he talks. He may not sound like the brightest guy, but obviously he is.
Super sharp, and I mean, every team has their third down go-to plays, and you practice them during the week. 3rd and 4 to 6, they're going to run one of these 2 at least twice a game. They're going to 3rd and 6 to 8. This is their favorite play. And I remember one of the first series or 2 is 3rd down, 3rd and 8. I know the play they're going to run. 3 wide receivers are all coming inside, and I'm going to skinny in a little bit to bait him to throw it to the second guy, and he jams it through the window before I can get back to it. I mean, I was so upset about it. Saban rips him to pieces when I get off. We stop him. I'm like, I was trying to bait him, and he still got it through the window. I mean, so he was that good.
Played a long time in the NFL, won a couple Super Bowls. You were going up against a good one that day.
No doubt. He got me for sure.
It's funny, I talked to Matt Malk about that game, and Matt joked, I put us down 7-0 right away.
Well, I was going to say, he spotted them 7 points. I don't know if he was skimming off the top. I don't know what was going on. But he liked to do that to us that year, though. He had a game or two where it's like, I'm going to spot him 7, see if y'all can catch him. Like, geez.
Yeah, Matt, the pick 6 early on, and Matt said, and I heard Nick Saban talk about, I never got so many one-finger salutes in my life as I did that day. Now, you don't think of was it Vaught Hemingway Stadium as being, on the same par as the Swamp or Jordan Hare or any of these, Roman Coliseums that you play at in the SEC. But from what I've heard, that was the nastiest atmosphere LSU's gone into. Matt Malk said, I'm on the bus and I look out in the crowd, and there was an 8-year-old who gave me the bird. He shot me the finger.
It was crazy. It was packed, and yeah, it was rowdy. I mean, I've never seen Oxford like that for sure. And it was probably the rowdiest away game. Fans around the buses, I mean, I think they were kind of pushing on it when we stopped one time. It's like, what are we doing? Like, this is crazy.
It's what makes college football great, huh?
No doubt.
So the final score was 17-14. Once again, a sign of the times. These days the scores and the yardage is just crazy. But late in the game, as LSU fans are biting their fingernails hoping that you're going to hang on, it was, when you first saw the play, it just looks like Eli was clumsy and fell down, but Chad Lavallee was the source of the problem.
Yeah, no doubt. I think he jammed the center up, and the center stepped on Eli's foot, and that's what caused him to trip. So again, yeah. Great D-line always makes the secondary look pretty good too. That helps.
Jack, too, I joked with Justin Vincent about this. You go to see LSU play at Ole Miss, and you look up, and they've got a banner up there that says Ole Miss SEC West Champions 2003. Do you know about that? Or you?
No, but I think we were co-champs because I guess they lost one game, we lost one. But
yeah,
I mean,
it was head-to-head, and I think you played in Atlanta against Georgia.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like USC has a trophy too for 2003 national championship, but I mean, did they really win one or not? I don't know.
Right. Oh yeah. That was a big discussion. And LSU beat Auburn head-to-head back in 1988. I'm being a nerd here real quick. And Auburn played in the Sugar Bowl, but LSU does claim that championship. So I guess there are cases like that.
That's right.
But anyway, and then the finale against Arkansas, you smash them 55-24 in Tiger Stadium. Eric Alexander, another guy like Jack Hunt, who was patient and waited his turn. I remember he scored a touchdown in that game.
Yeah, fumble recovery for a touchdown. Yeah. Senior day, that was a good deal for Eric. So
yeah, now he's in broadcasting. He's doing some broadcasting work.
Yeah, good for him. Eric's a great guy. Like you said, waited his turn, had a great impact on our team that year. Another great player that played in the NFL for, probably 8 years.
And just another crazy note on him, just being a nerd again here. He was running in the Boston Marathon when the bomb went off.
Really? I didn't know that.
Years back. Now, he was far, far away from it, from what I understand. But still, he was he was in the race that day.
Wow.
Crazy story there. So when you went to the SEC championship game against Georgia, certainly there was a lot of talk about the better team didn't win the first time, right?
Oh, golly. I mean, I heard that even from friends of mine that were LSU people. I was like, I wanted to slap them. Like, seriously? I mean, I thought it spoke to how good our team was to have such bad field position that first game, hold them to so few points and get a win. But no, for the team going to that SEC championship game, we knew we were going to kill them. It wasn't if we were going to win. It's like, how much are we going to win by? Mm-hmm. A lot of teams defensively, they have tendencies in certain down and distances where you can narrow it down to 2 or 3 plays. And when you can do that, you really, if you can't stop them, then you're just overpowered. And we could narrow them down to a handful of plays on a lot of third down situations. And I think LaRon Landry had a interception on the first or second third down of the game because we had the down and distance. We knew what they were going to run. We baited them into a throw and had the interception. So we were very confident going to that game that we were going to get a W.
We had a microphone, I think, on Justin Vincent's mom. Up in the stands that day.
My family sat next to her, maybe at Ole Miss, and they said she was really loud.
Well, she was definitely very loud very early because he ripped off that run off the right side.
Yep.
Just an exhilarating run. Huh? You remember? I guess you were on the sideline watching.
No, but yeah, he had that because he ripped off another one very similar in the national championship game. But yeah, ripped off a run early that kind of set the momentum and set the pace for the game.
He was the MVP of the game. I think he went over 200 yards in the game, rushing. And we joked, I think some guy from, I think it was South Carolina or maybe Auburn, broke his record in the SEC champion, but he got like 36 carries or something.
Yeah, nice.
Just like, hey, you need 36 carries. I think I got like 18 and got 200 yards.
Right. So he had a great game for sure.
So you beat down Georgia in the national championship game. I seem to remember. So you get paired up and for all of us, the 1958 national championship team, at least. Like, in my opinion, I was, for a long time growing up, I was like, well, that's going to be the only one they've ever had, and that's going to be the one that's always referenced.
Right.
LSU, like in 1987, they go 10-1-1, finished top 5. You feel good about those things, but I don't know if LSU's ever going to play in the national championship again. So when it hits the screen that you're going to play in the game, do you remember your feelings?
Yeah, we're excited, I guess, a little nervous. And I mean, we were super excited because we thought we should be in the game. And obviously had to have a few pieces fall into place that Saturday night after our game in the SEC championship. But no, super excited and a little nervous too because a lot of pressure on that too.
Yeah, and I don't want to say the game lost any luster, but Oklahoma got hammered in the Big 12 championship.
Yeah, exactly. Lost to K-State.
I think that was Darren Sproles tore him up.
Okay, was it?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
And so just a lot of discussion kind of bouncing off these 3 teams, right? LSU, USC, Oklahoma.
Right. No, there was a ton of it. So I was glad we got in and still think the better team won the Crystal Trophy that year and has it in their locker room instead of somewhere else in California.
Yeah, and I remember, I think it was, one of the, a true GOAT, okay, in Keith Jackson. No one's ever going to doubt Keith Jackson and his legacy and what he meant to college football. But I remember distinctly, the Rose Bowl was played before your game, and him saying something, well, no matter what happens in that Sugar Bowl coming up, the true national champion is here today, the USC Trojans,
Wow.
And I mean, something to that effect, you
Yeah.
know, and that's what really started. And LSU and USC, I don't think they've played since 1983 or 84 or something like that. But they really started up for the animosity between these two.
Oh, no doubt. If you'd have played a game between those two, within 10 or 15 years of that, I think it'd have been mutual hatred going into it for sure.
Let's get that in the kickoff classic back then, right?
That'd be great.
Let's have LSU and USC meet up in Dallas or something. But so the national championship game itself, Jack, I think. Is it the Times-Picayune that you're on the front cover?
Yeah, me and Marcus, I think, whenever he had the pick 6.
Sugar High?
Sugar High, yep.
So you were forever, sports bars and restaurants around the world, I guess, at least in Louisiana.
Yeah, a handful of them. A lot of them are in the bathroom, though. It's kind of strange, but that's all right. I'll take it wherever it is,
In the bathroom, huh?
When you win championships after that, they got to move the old stuff somewhere.
Oh, yeah, you get bumped.
Yeah, we got bumped down.
Joe Burrow and Matt Flynn and company are bumping you.
Exactly. Stealing our thunder,
And talking to Muschamp last year, trying to remember, was there a pregame speech in the locker room, or what really kind of got you guys going that day?
Yeah, well, if you remember, they had several people that won, I guess. Heisman, Jason White. They had a defensive lineman that won the Nagorski or whatever it may be. They had the linebacker, Teddy something, that won. So individual awards, their team was a runaway. Yes, and Coach Muschamp had a pretty fiery speech about how they had all the awards with a few explicatives and how we were still going to carry our lunch bells and go whip their butts. So it was very, very fiery. He was just telling it to the defense, and even the offense kind of turned around, and Jim was like, no, look over here. And everybody said, Coach Muschamp's giving a great speech over here. We need to listen to this one.
Yeah.
So he got the whole team fired up on that one.
Yeah, Jason White won the Heisman, and his numbers in this game were putrid as far as passing the football. You guys had shut him down.
We did, and it was another one of those same things. They had so many tendencies, and I remember I told my father and uncle, they were asking, how are y'all going to slow them down? I said, we're going to kill them. I'm telling you, we're going to kill them. They don't have a chance because when they line up, when they line up in the formation, we're going to know 1 of 5 plays. If they motion, we're going to know 1 of 3. And if they reset, we'll know 1 of 2. Like that's how many tendencies they had, down in, down out. So I mean,
it was that basic.
Yeah, it was. They just had better athletes than most people in their conference. Is basically what it was. So we could match up with them personnel-wise. We could adjust and narrow down their plays. And I mean, our defense felt very, very confident going to that game. That they may put up 15 points and 200 yards, but they're not going to do anything more than that. All we got to do is score 21 points, we're going to win the game.
Yeah, and the final score is the final score, 21-14. I've had people say that was the biggest blowout a 21-14 game could be.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, we had a couple of turnovers that cost us. I mean,
I think it was a block punt.
Yep.
Put him at the 1, and then love Matt Mark, but there was an interception. I think that got returned that led to another touchdown. Those were their 2 touchdowns.
Yep, exactly. And that block punt, we stuffed them on 3rd and 1, and there was some kind of BS penalty where they get another crack at it, and I think they punched that one in.
If there's one moment that you point to in Marcus Spears' career, it's him, picking off that pass and running into the end zone for a touchdown. Another big night by Justin Vincent. Skylar Green scored the other touchdown, I believe.
I believe he did.
So there you go. And Lionel Turner. Lionel Turner here, man. Sacked the quarterback late in the game. Love Lionel from Walker, Louisiana.
Louisiana, yeah.
That was kind of his finest hour too. He came through with some huge plays, a sack, and
yeah, I think he had the delayed blitz at the end of the game and knocked Jason White out. So I mean, yeah, really all around great game on defense for our players. But Lionel did have a great game.
And once again, not to speak out of both sides of my mouth, it was a dominant win. But they were throwing passes in the end zone late in the game to tie.
No, they were.
And there was some heart-stopping moments. Are we going to hang on here or not?
No, they would. They did have a couple of cracks at the end zone in the last minute that were, they were tough. They had a 3rd down conversion, and I remember this like the back of my mind. We blitzed. I'm covering. They had a great wide receiver too that finished like 2nd in the Bolitnikov. I had to cover him, slant over the middle, and I mean I am laid out on top of him, and I mean I don't know how he got that ball in there. I mean it just another one of those plays like you can't play it much better, but they convert a 3rd down and get us to right about the 25 and get a couple of cracks.
And, I know how people feel about kickers and punters, but the punter wraps up the game. Donnie Jones goes out to punt on the final play. I think he wrote a book, 8 Seconds to Victory or something.
8 seconds to a championship, yeah. That was a big punt, though. I think he kicked it about 60 yards, and hang time almost ran the whole clock out if it didn't run the clock out. So.
There was no returner because obviously they were all going after the ball, and so it just kind of bounced and bounced and bounced, and the clock ran out. What were your emotions on the Superdome field as you won the title?
I'll be honest, I was so exhausted. I mean, that was, after the SEC championship, wasn't tired, fired up. After that game, I mean, I was physically drained. I think it took a toll on defensively. Again, we had some bad yardage situations, bad field position. I'm not saying it was easy. It was a slog, and I was just drained. I mean, I was excited, but I mean, I think I met my family after the game. An hour after you do interviews and showers, and they were like, "What do you want to do?" I was like, "I just want to go eat something and go to bed." Like I'm whipped. So really kind of celebrated the few days after that because I was just so worn out after that game.
Nick Saban's theme has always been, there is no big game. This is not a big game. Right. That year, especially the Georgia game, the home game we talked about, right. There was so much hype, and all these national people came in, and that was the game that was so hyped. And Nick Saban is right, because the Florida game didn't get a hint of that hype. LSU lost the game, and it was the same game. It was a SEC opponent from the East that you lost. So I thought that really kind of hits on what he would always say. And I remember before the national championship game, too, he was doing his radio show in New Orleans, and there was an older lady who got on the mic to ask a question. "I want to hear you say this is a big game."
That's awesome. He probably couldn't do it, though.
And he said, "You know what? It is a big game." And the whole place cheered.
Okay, good.
And he goes, "Because it's the next game." Yeah. So right back to his initial point.
Right.
So.
But another, just coach how he is, how he was. After that game, I won't say the names, but 2 very good junior players were in the locker room getting ready for interviews, and he walked up to them, and I mean, this is 10 minutes after the game, and said, "So y'all leaving? Are you going to go to the NFL or y'all staying?" And you're like, "Coach, we just won the national championship." Like, "I know, but y'all think about it. I don't want to know tomorrow." I mean, that's how He couldn't
Michael Clayton and
Matt Mock.
Yeah, I think Mark was like, I still got my eye black on, I got my cleats.
And he's wanting to know, are you going to go to the NFL next year? Like, man, can you celebrate for a day?
Yeah, and I remember being a baby reporter being there and asking questions to Coach Saban, and I distinctly remember me asking something like, well, how's this feel? And him saying something like, you don't want to know what I'm thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
Because what I'm thinking is, how are we going to do this next year?
Right.
And this is 15 minutes after, hoisting the crystal ball.
Yeah, he's driven for sure.
And it was funny, Steve Schneider and I, we went one day years back, we went through the LSU media guides, and we started counting up the assistant coaches that left every year. Like there was 4 that left in 2000, there was another 3 in 2001, there was another 3 in 2000, it added up to 10 or 11 or 12 in his time at LSU. And look, sometimes I go to practice and I'm only out there for 15 minutes and I just be like, man, I'm tired of hearing this guy, I mean, how did they put up with this? Kind of what I was thinking to myself. But obviously, he's the greatest that's ever done it.
No doubt. I was going to say, players aren't the only ones that get it. The coaches get it pretty good sometimes too. To me, it's even more impressive his career with that amount of turnover to still maintain that success. I mean, it tells you that it's vastly,
it's changed at Alabama. He's had a lot of turnover in terms of the big coaches,
right?
The offensive coordinators, the guys that get jobs,
right?
But it seems like the people beneath.
It's been a little steadier.
Yeah.
And keeping Kirby for those 6-8 years was a big deal for him too. Which Kirby was a great coach still.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I kind of laugh to myself when people are questioning Kirby Smart. It's like, well, this guy's a Tua Tagovailoa. I don't want to call it a miracle, but crazy pass away from being a national champion.
Right, exactly.
I mean, he's been in the SEC championship. He's won. I mean, he's certainly Mark done better than I think what Mark Richt was doing, and I love Mark Richt too, great coach. But people, he's a very interesting LSU footnote, right? Because he was here 1 year, the year after you left.
Right, and so he was the safeties coach in Miami for the Dolphins my second year, so I got to know him pretty well there too.
So he was kind of here, and I remember doing a story. Yeah, this guy Kirby Smart's here to coach, and then he was here and gone. And
right, but he's a great coach. And him and Muschamp played at Georgia together. I think Kirby's a couple years younger. They both played safety at Georgia together.
That's right.
So, yeah,
that's right. So the whole Nick Saban thing, okay, when he was here, I think we all knew that this guy's a great coach, obviously. The Cox Communications building for student athletes, the football operations building, also the thing that nobody liked at the time but was needed, the tradition fund on the season tickets. All these things were done when Nick Saban was here, and because of that, LSU has enjoyed a lot of success since he's left. So, but I don't think anybody thought, well, this guy is going to become the greatest college football coach of all time and win 6 national championships at Alabama. And so it's a very fascinating topic, Jack Hunt, because you look at all the success he's given LSU, and then you look at all the success he's prevented LSU from having. So,
no doubt, it's a little bit bittersweet because certainly I think the LSU powers that be would have loved to have gotten him back. When he was leaving Miami, the timing just didn't fit. I'm sure you remember that. Have a great day, SEC championship day, and all that.
Yeah.
It didn't work out, but I'm with you. I mean, a lot of people probably are still angry about it, but he did help lay the foundation for the success we have. It's very unfortunate that he has to be in the same conference and in the same division.
Yeah.
But it's also created a great rivalry too, and that's probably propelled LSU to be even better. So I mean, it's bittersweet. Gosh, I wish we could have had the success they've had, but LSU, we've had a good run at it too, and still very successful and happy where we are. Always striving to be better, but no complaints really, I guess, from me.
Yeah, there is that kind of. It's always the mental battle of what could have been, and don't talk with your mouth full, because outside of Alabama, no one's won 3 national championships since 2003, I don't believe. So. That there is that dynamic, and some guy, Jack, tweeted at me the other day, why didn't LSU get Nick Saban when he left the Dolphins? And it's like, I think people, they forget, like LSU had a head coach, his name was Les Miles, and on the day that Nick Saban was named the head coach at Alabama, LSU was whipping up on Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl that day.
That's right. And then, yeah, that's when, I think there was rumors that Les was flirting with maybe Michigan at the time, and then it got out that LSU was.
That was 1 year later.
Okay.
07.
Okay.
The national.
Well, it got out, that
Yeah.
LSU was flirting, I think, with Saban again, and
Okay.
that's when they had. I think it was the SEC championship game, right, where he came in and did like a pregame interview.
Yes, yeah, the 40-second press conference where the president at the time, they called him the astronaut. What was his name? Oh God. He sat down. Saban said, not Saban. Bertman.
Okay.
Michael Bonnet. They all sat down, and then Les came out and did his, I am the coach at LSU. I'll continue to be the coach at LSU.
That's right.
Have a nice day. And he walked off and didn't take any questions. And it was still kind of unclear, though.
Yeah, no, I don't know that it helped calm any speculation of anything. It's like, what was that? What's really going on?
I'll continue to be the LSU coach. You mean towards the end of the day?
Right. Yeah.
Or next year or whatever. Tracy Wolfson had to track him down for the SEC championship. And that really was a blasé SEC championship because at the time we didn't think LSU had any chance of getting into the national championship in 07.
Right. No, that was, a weird one.
Yeah. Ryan Perrilloux won, and it was 21-14. It was kind of Tennessee wasn't great, and LSU got into the national championship. All right. I want to talk to you about a few current things, too, as well. So last year, LSU's defense was historically bad.
Terrible.
What's that like for you to watch?
It's hard to watch. I mean, we've been so good defensively for so long that giving up 600 yards and 45 points. And look, the game's changed a lot since I played. I mean, obviously there's more points on the board and more yards, but it was tough to watch.
Yeah. The Bo Pelini thing just did not work out whatsoever. Sure, they lost a lot of talent off of 2019, but you being a safety, right? I mean, you're the last line of defense, and certainly that's been pointed to a lot as the safety play last year was dreadful in terms of guys rotating over and helping out.
It was. I mean, it looked like a lot of miscommunication. I mean, there was a lot of plays we lined up, and I'd say we're beat. I mean, we're beat. We're out-leveraged on the outside. I mean, if it's a toss sweep, they're getting 30 yards. And it happened over and over where it baffled me. People would ask, like, what's going on with the defense? I can't even tell. But all I can tell you is, on this play right here, if they run a toss sweep, we are so out of position, they're going to kill us. So I don't understand. I know they had the shortened time frame. They didn't get the practice, new system, communication. That's tough. I mean, it is. I mean, we're going to have the same challenge this year. We're going to have a new system, new calls, communication, learning it. And the biggest thing is you can't be thinking while you're playing. It's got to be instinctive. You got to read your keys and react, not read your keys and think, what am I supposed to do? And it seemed like there was some of that last year. There was some miscommunications, and we're just playing flat out leveraged on plays. And all that spells horrible defense. That's what it does.
So oftentimes you could tell yourself a big passing play is about to happen before it happened, or.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you could just tell. I mean, when we lined up, and you could see the quarterback come up and be like, check, check, check. I was like, I mean, they're running something that way because we are screwed. I mean, there's no way we can cover it. So it's going to be interesting this year. Like I said, we're going to have some of the same challenges. Hopefully we'll have more time, get defense installed and communication in place, and people understand what they're trying to do, because that's the biggest challenge is you can't be thinking about what you're doing. You got to read your keys and react.
Well, Durante Jones is a new defensive coordinator. Unlike last year, they had spring football, and they've had summer workouts and all these different things. And the limited amount of time that we go to practice, he's always with the safeties. So that's his background, and hopefully, the guys this year, there's a lot of talk about this Sage Ryan, a 5-star from Lafayette Christian Academy. Certainly, they're very high on Jay Ward. He made some big plays for LSU last year at safety. And Major Burns from Madison Prep here in Baton Rouge has come back home after spending 1 year with the Georgia Bulldogs. So we'll see if those guys can do a better job this year.
Yeah, no doubt. We had a couple of D linemen, a couple of starters that were out last year. With COVID, they either didn't play or moved on. And you think back to our team. What if Chad Lavallee and Marquise Hill didn't play our senior year because of COVID? I mean, that's a big change to your team when you have some of your better players that can't play every week. And it's hard to cover in the secondary when you don't get any pressure either. So, I mean, there was a multitude of problems last year that I hope they can address this year.
What do you think, being a guy who played for Nick Saban and, when discipline and all that stuff. What do you think when you hear, well, these new coaches are doing really well because they're getting along with the players well, and it seems like some of the players have taken ownership in terms of, we don't like this guy, so he gets fired,
Right.
that type of deal. Obviously, last year the chemistry was toxic from what we hear, that they
Right.
did not get along with these coaches whatsoever. But what do you think when you hear that?
I think there's always been kind of two schools of coaching, back, for instance, 2000 you had Coach Saban was kind of the hard discipline, hard nose, and then you had Pete Carroll was kind of the first one that was kind of more the players coach and kumbaya and all that. Which
Ed Orgeron took a lot of that.
Right, and they're both very successful models. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I think they can both work, but it's how does it fit the personality? And I think Coach Orgeron has taken more of that other approach. I think probably this day and age, players, like it or not, they have more power, which I think is a good thing, than they've ever really had. They have more voice, and they get more influence on the team and what's done. So I think your style has to change, and I think Saban's style has changed drastically over time. He hadn't done it, every year, but it's just over the last 10 years, he's really changed his style. Yeah, he does still rip people, but he's much more of a player's coach than he ever was.
Yeah, I think about that too. Some of the current topics that have popped up, I think to myself, oh, Saban's not going to like that. And maybe there's that initial response of he doesn't like it, but then what? The recruiting the world, right? Everything revolves around recruiting and getting players there. And back in the day, if Rohan went up to a coach and said, yeah, I'm doing commercials for such and such, he might have been, what?
Yeah, exactly.
But now it's like, well, my quarterback, Bryce Young's got $1 million. So
Yeah, I heard he threw that out there pretty early.
yeah, in the process, in Texas.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, he may not like it, but he's going to find a way to use it to his advantage on the recruiting trail. And he knows that's what it's all about.
And I was wondering too, Jack, last year, okay, they beat Ole Miss and they beat him handily and it was never really in doubt. But when he gets on the bus and he's given up 1 billion yards and points, how does he feel as a defensive coach these days and these spread offensive attacks and everything?
I mean, this spread offense, and it's really this RPO, the run pass option. I mean, it puts the defense on your heels. Like, it has to. Our typical keys, if the lineman's head is low and they come fire off the ball, it's a run play. It has to be a run play because the lineman cannot be down the field. Yeah. And that's the whole confusion on the RPO, right? I mean, that's what it's all about. So it makes the linebacker and it makes the safety, you have to sit on your heels for another half a second to see, is it really a run? And that half a second, that's all those extra yards. It really is. It's hard to not give 2 or 3 yards of play, even if you play it right.
Okay, I got the roster from 2003. I'm going to go through a few guys, and, I'll just go down the road, and you just kind of give me a few thoughts. Jamarcus Russell, by the way, was a freshman on there.
He was a freshman, yeah. Him and Matt Flynn were both freshmen that year.
How about that? Amp Hill, I'm going to say real quick, the one memory I have of Amp Hill is that LSU gave up that pass to Iowa in the Capital One Bowl, and we had a shot at him, and he was just like that.
Yeah.
On the sideline after that, when that all went down. Chiron Carey, man, that one juke against Georgia. In the home game, that was something.
Yep.
Let's see here. Devery Henderson played a long time for the New Orleans Saints. Speed demon, huh?
Speed demon. Straight line speed, never seen it, yeah.
Yeah,
Fast.
Not much of a talker, just
not much of a talker.
Very quiet guy. Joseph Adai, stud, huh?
Oh, man. I think he was probably, of the running backs we had, he was the most feared by the defensive guys. I did not like to try to tackle that guy in practice. Yeah. I mean, he probably was 210, but it felt like you're hitting somebody that weighed 300, just a strong brick house.
Yeah. I don't want to say deceptively strong, because certainly he looked like a strong guy, but just his power and his strength went further than his height and weight, huh?
Yeah. He's one of those guys, if you go up there and smack him good and get him on the ground, the next time you go to smack him and he jukes you and you fall over and don't even touch him, it's like, I don't like trying to tackle him.
He long NFL career.
Yep.
He could have been the MVP of that first Super Bowl that Peyton won.
Yep.
It was kind of a rainy game. Corey Webster played a long time in the NFL and intercepted Brett Favre in that freezing NFC Championship game when the Giants went on to win that Super Bowl that year.
Best athlete I've ever seen in my life, Corey Webster.
Really?
Yes. Basketball, I mean, he was offered UConn and Duke and all those colleges to play basketball. I mean, he was the silkiest, smoothest, best athlete, all-around athlete I've ever seen.
His coverage skills and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Just that good.
He was that good. And if you ever saw him play basketball, you would be really impressed. Oh, however he wanted to dunk it, and then he'd back up and shoot three-pointers and not even touch the rim. He was unbelievable.
Wow, there
and
you
another
go.
great, quiet, humble guy that just came to work and did his job.
2003 National Championship Tigers. A lot of names on this roster. Corey Webster, best athlete according to Jack Hunt. How about that? Michael Clayton, another athlete who could play basketball.
He could. Tough as nails. I mean, that guy was gritty and tough. And Saban likes gritty, tough players. He loved Michael Clayton.
He hammered some people on special teams, huh?
Oh yeah, early on when he played special teams, he was a beast. You remember that he played safety a little bit in that
Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, Cotton Bowl, and he laid some people out in that game too. So I mean, he was gritty, fearless, wasn't afraid to do what he had to do.
You guys were hurting so bad in that Cotton Bowl in terms of depth in the secondary. I think he played 20 plays or something at safety that game.
Yep.
Remember it well. Okay, Benny Brazel, Benny and the Jets, still coaching down the street.
Yeah. Oh, Benny was a lot of fun. He may have been a freshman. Was he a freshman or sophomore that year?
He was a sophomore.
Another one, fast as lightning.
He was
Jokester, always having fun, always smiling. Benny was always smiling.
6'1", 166, Benny. 2003. Your quarterback, Matt Malk, certainly I think it was a big factor in that team that you had an older quarterback. Matt Malk had played professional baseball. I think he was 25 or so when he was
That's about right.
25, 26 that year.
Yeah, no, he definitely, old man of the group. He helped keep us all in line.
Yeah. I think he threw 28 touchdowns or something. It was funny. Sometimes he was mentioned as a game manager. It's like, well, the guy almost threw 30 touchdowns in the season. He wasn't just handing off and throwing 5-yard outs.
Right.
Randall Bluegay.
Yeah, Randall Bluegay. Another guy came in with as a freshman. For the Blue had a great senior year too. He's one of the guys. He had some injuries. He played a good bit throughout his career at LSU, but had some injuries. Broke his arm, I think, the second game. He was a starting corner, if you remember. Travis Daniels was a starting free safety.
Yeah.
Blue broke his arm the second game, moved Travis to corner, LaRon to safety. And I remember when Blue came back, he pretty much told Coach, like, we're playing so good, just I'll play nickel. Don't mess it up. Just leave me a nickel.
Yeah.
So really, team attitude, great guy. At his pro day, I think Blue ran, at our LSU pro day, I think Blue ran like a 4.32 40 and vertical like 40. And we're all like, where did this come from? Holy cow.
Just popped in my head real quick. Matt Malk told me about the first time he saw Chad Lavallee. And he said, there's this guy in the weight room with these skinny legs and this big gut. And I say, hey, where are you from? And he's like, well, I worked in a prison last year. And he's like, what is going on here?
What did I get into?
It ended up being a pretty big piece of that team, too.
Yep.
It's just funny to go back and just kind of see names. Yeah, Jason Spadoni, running back from Curtis back in the day. While I'm mentioning that, Jacob Hester always told me he got lots of Caucasian jokes like Vanilla Ice and Eminem. Did you hear any of that stuff when you were playing?
No, not much.
Not as much? Okay. No? Okay. All right. But you were just that good, right? Justin Vincent, freshman running back, comes out of nowhere, right? He's like fifth string and then is a 1,000-yard rusher.
Yeah, and MVP of the SEC Championship, and he may have been MVP of the National Championship. I don't even know.
I think there was an offensive and defensive.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think he might have been. Travis Daniels. I need to find Travis. Was he with the Dolphins with you?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, thought so.
Yeah, sticky. Travis was a sticky cornerback. I mean, he just always was in the right place and made the plays.
LaRon Landry, who looked like he could have been in an Avengers movie, and that's no CGI. I mean, his muscles, as the years went on, it's like, is that real?
Yeah, is that natural? I think it was. I mean, when he came in, he was probably $170 that freshman year. Yeah. But if he got a finger on you, if he laid a finger on you, you were getting tackled. I mean, he would get you on the ground.
He was a beast. Let's see here. Ben Wilkerson, one of my favorite dudes, right? So Big Ben, played center and just the nicest guy in the world, is in coaching now. I think he's with the Giants, the New York Giants now, and has had a great coaching career.
Yeah, no, he had a great career. He was good with us. I think he's assistant offensive line coach for the Giants. You know who the offensive line coach is?
Tell me.
Rob Sale.
That's right.
Who played center the year before Ben at LSU. Isn't that small world?
He was at Alabama for a while, right? And Cajuns or?
Yeah. He was at Bama for a while, and he's been with Napier probably the last 3 or 4 years, and now he's the offensive line coach at the Giants.
Big Rodney Reed, who looked 40.
Yeah.
But another great LSU Tiger. He was like, you had those 5 guys that would show up for the press interviews. He was always one of those guys.
Right.
know?
Me and Rodney were roommates, 3 out of the 4 years at LSU. Still good friends. Great guy. Just one of those, just brings his lunch pail to work, does his job. Didn't get a lot of fanfare, but I don't think, what was his name, Adam Pollock or whoever it was, the Georgia big defensive end. I don't think he got a pressure hardly on our quarterback in either of those games, and that was on Rodney's side. So
David Pollock, yeah.
David Pollock, there we go.
What I remember about those offensive linemen as well, Reed and I think it was Peterman. After the 2001 shocking upset of Tennessee in the SEC championship, they had roses in their mouth. They had those roses because Tennessee got cut off at the pass. They were supposed to be in the national championship.
They were.
Rudy Nicewanger
Yeah.
won that award for best center in the country, right?
I think he did. Another North Louisiana guy.
Yeah. Peterman on the offensive line, Big Stephen Peterman.
Yeah.
Andrew Whitworth, I heard Jeremy Hill talk about Andrew Whitworth the other day. He said he's got the longest arms I've ever seen. It's like he can scratch his knees standing up.
He can.
Freak of nature, huh?
Huge guy and a great athlete too. I mean, played basketball in high school, great touch. I mean, it's kind of like Kyle Williams. They're big guys. Yeah, they're offensive, defensive linemen, but they're athletes. They can move. They've got touch. So yeah, I mean, I'm not shocked that Whitworth's still playing. I mean, he's still probably one of the better left tackles in pro football in his 15th year or something like that.
Just an enormous human being. Like he walks in the room, and I don't want to say it's like Shaq, but it's kind of close. It's like an offensive and defensive lineman. You expect these guys to have a little fat, a little belly or a little. I don't see it on that guy. I mean, he is lean and mean.
Just huge. Just big. I mean, he's not fat. He's just a big guy.
When he gets out of football, if he wants to be a bouncer for like Ariana Grande or something like that, he can certainly do it. Okay, and let's see here, a few more. Dwayne Bowe, he was kind of just a skinny guy on that team, but developed.
Yeah, he was probably a freshman, maybe freshman or sophomore. Coming up receiver.
Yeah, I think he caught a pass at the end of the Georgia game, maybe, or somewhere in there.
Okay.
But yeah, obviously by the time he was done, was a lethal weapon. Right. Marcus Spears, SEC Network.
Yeah, Marcus has done great. I mean, Marcus always liked to talk. He was always a jokester too, and always loud, but good influence on the team too. Good to see him on Saturdays and stuff, doing what he's doing.
And you were around Ryan Clark for a couple of years, right?
Yeah, Ryan was a year or two older. Funny story. Me and Ryan. He was out of football when I got done, and we were kind of working out together and doing tryouts. And both of us got cut, and I think he was like working for TAF. And he gets a call to go to the Steelers mid-season. I mean, that's how he kind of got back in and just took advantage of the opportunity and played great and had a great career in the NFL and obviously some broadcasting stuff now.
Never give up, huh?
That's right. Never know when you're gonna catch a break.
Stick with it. That's an amazing story. What was Lavalley like?
Chad was always a quiet guy. I mean, real quiet. Same thing, just kind of came to work, did his job. Never real vocal. If Chad said something, then you better watch out. He meant what he was talking about if he said something.
Gotcha. We've talked about some of these other guys already. All right. Have you met Coach O?
I think I briefly met him a couple years ago. I went out to practice, but I haven't. I guess that 2018, 2019, I spent a little time around the team. Was planning to spend a little more time last year. Obviously, that didn't work out, but trying to kind of get back a little more involved. I go to all the games and watch all the games, but I'd like to get out to practice and just kind of be around more. Just hadn't done it yet. Okay. I got 4 little kids. That keeps me kind of busy. Yeah. So they're getting a little older, all getting into school now, so that should free me up a little bit.
Well, I mean, when you're at your house, right, and you're sitting there with the wife and the 4 kids, do I want to get in traffic? Do I want to have to park? Do I have to walk up there and get out and deal with all that? I got my fridge right here. I got the bathroom right here. I got my big screen. It's that's what they're fighting these days.
No doubt they are. Convenience, and I still like the game day experience. It's fun.
Well, I hope the stadium is packed this year and everyone comes back and gets to enjoy it, because I think people have suffered a lot in a lot of different ways in the last year and 6 months or whatever it's been. So,
yeah.
Jack Hunt, thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Jack. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, great seeing you. Thanks for all the time. Jack Hunt, national champion with the LSU Tigers in 2003. Man, you get